Which Godzilla movies would you consider the best? Hello there my fellow moviegoers, Chris back here in the movie chair. And we have to admit, Godzilla has had a lot of memorable moments since his conception back in the 1950s. He's battled a lot of interesting other creatures out there and he's had a lot of interesting storylines. But there are a couple of movies that I feel are the absolute best when it comes to Godzilla films. And as a true Godzilla fan, I went through them and I chose my 5 top Godzilla movies that I believe are his best. So what I would like for you to do right now is to pull up a movie chair and let me tell you my top 5 Godzilla movies of all time. Number 5, Godzilla vs. Biollante. This was the first Godzilla movie after Godzilla in 1984, which was his 30th anniversary, and it introduced us to Godzilla into a new timeline and for a new generation of people to watch. And in this movie, they actually introduced to us a brand new creature that Godzilla has to battle. And it's interesting how they did this creature because just like Godzilla was a product of the 1950s nuclear scare, this monster in the 80s into the early 90s was kind of an answer to maybe the scare of biological engineering, biological sciences, where we are contemplating being able to create things that we may not have been able to create before. And that's what I liked about Biollante. There was actually kind of like a social commentary backstory to it that you could actually look at and be like, make you question things in society, just like Godzilla did as well. At the time, not many people agreed with that because this was actually the lowest box office Godzilla film at that time, and the studio execs at Toho actually contributed to the fact that they believed it was because people wanted to see classic Godzilla villains and see Godzilla go up against them, which is why in the later 90s films you got to see the reappearance of King Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, and Mechagodzilla. Number 4, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monstrous Attack. This was the rebirth of Godzilla after Godzilla 2000. This movie actually takes Godzilla close to back to his origins in the 1950s, where he is a product of nuclear terror, nuclear scare, and in a nice slow twist, King Ghidorah is actually a good guy in this one and is one of the Guardians along with Mothra, who are pretty much summoned whenever Godzilla shows up to try to defeat him. And Godzilla in this movie really looks menacing. If you look at his eyes, there are no pupils. It's just completely white, which actually adds to the terror, and it actually adds a little bit more to the realism, because if you look at some of the Godzilla costumes, the eyes of Godzilla do not move whatsoever and they look lifeless. But since the eyes don't have to move, it actually looks terrifying when you just see all white in his eyes, because it just makes it look like he doesn't have a soul. Great action scenes, great story, and the same director behind this that was behind the Gamera movies of the 90s and early 2000s, this movie really stands out as one of the top tier Godzilla movies. Number 3, Shin Godzilla. This movie actually just came out a few years ago. Back in 2016, we actually got to see the rebirth of Godzilla once again after over a 10-year period, his last film being released in 2004 if you just count Japan and not America. This movie truly brought Godzilla back down to his roots. He is a menace, there are no other monsters he's fighting. He is just a scary, scary nuclear beast that is wreaking havoc on Japan. And his design, if you look and listen back to some of the early commentary of the 1950s, this is really the way they wanted Godzilla to look back then, with kind of like more of a mushroom kind of shaped head, and the body just looking so scaled and beat up to where it looks like it hurts that he has to move. And the story was really interesting because it added another element to Godzilla. He can actually evolve really quickly to his surroundings, which makes him kind of like this more superior beast than us humans. It may slow down a little bit when it comes to the interactions and human scenes, but this is still a very, very big reintroduction of Godzilla to us, and hopefully we can see more of this in the future. Number 2, Godzilla vs. Mothra from the 1960s. This was the first time we ever got to see Godzilla and Mothra face each other in a movie from Toho. And Godzilla is still the bad guy in this, and we actually still see a little bit of the nuclear fallout situation on Mothra's island, bringing about the fact that how they say man created this mess, man has to live with it. And that's pretty much what the movie is based around, but they do help out, and Mothra does decide that she needs to, save humanity or whatnot, and help us out to try to defeat Godzilla. I really like the story for this one. It's still keeping with the idea of Godzilla being the menace to society and humanity, and how humans are the ones who created it, and how we have to live with it. It's still a good story, still got some good fight scenes to it. Check it out if you've never seen that. And my number one top Godzilla movie of all time, the original Godzilla from 1954. I don't think anything will ever be able to top this Godzilla movie. It's beautifully filmed, it's in black and white, which actually adds to a lot of the scenes where Godzilla is invading the city and attacking, because it makes it give it like this very nightimey kind of feel to it, where you can actually feel like you are there with the shadows and the lighting. It's really beautiful that way. It was really kind of high tech at that time because they didn't have money or time to do stop motion like they did with King Kong here in America. So they went with the man in the suit. It actually worked, and it was a beautiful movie. The story is very, very social commentary at the time, playing off of the fears of people's, atomic bomb reactions, having them dropped on them. It really played on those fears. It really works that way, and it still holds up to this day as one of the best monster movies of all time. Don't watch the one with Raymond Burr because it kind of takes a lot away from it. You need to watch the original one from Japan. And that's my top 5 best Godzilla films. What did you think? Do you think maybe there should be another movie in there? What are your lists? Please let me know down in the comment section below, because that is what it is there for. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this, please remember to give it a like and also to subscribe to the channel so that you can stay up to date with all the upcoming videos that I'll be having up for you here soon. Well, alright my friends, that's all the time we have for today. I'll be seeing you guys later, and I will save you a movie chair for the next video.